In the heart of ancient Rome, amidst its ancient stones and dark catacombs, a boy was born who would forever change the face of the empire. His name was Octavian, but history would later know him as Augustus Caesar. Young, yet his eyes held the spark of ambition, and he carried the blood of Julius Caesar, destined to be the heir to absolute power. In a time when bullets and civil wars tore at the heart of the Republic, and when treachery and political cunning were the weapons of the powerful, this young man rose to become a maker of destinies, a builder of new borders, and the keeper of the keys to Rome, not through brute force alone, but through cunning, resourcefulness, and the art of controlling hearts, armies, and the state. But who was he truly? A wise leader or a hidden tyrant? A peacemaker or a warmonger? Between glory and bloodshed, between power and control, between love and betrayal, stands Augustus Caesar, a man who blends mad intellect with cold wisdom, writing the greatest chapter in Roman history, transforming Rome into a city that knew no more chaos. Yet even 2,000 years later, he remains an enigma, raising questions and prompting further questions. Welcome to this new video in our series on the greatest kings in history. Octavian, later known as Augustus Caesar, was born on September 23, 63 BC, on the Palatine Hill in the heart of Rome, into a family of rising political influence, though not part of the established senatorial aristocracy. This positioned him as a new man, someone who could rise to power through merit, alliances, and strategic relationships rather than purely through lineage. His father died while he was still a child, exposing Octavian early to loss and instability. His grandmother Julia, sister of Julius Caesar, took him under her protection, and his connection to the Caesarian family would prove crucial in shaping his future political trajectory. Octavian grew up during a period when Rome had achieved remarkable military dominance across the Mediterranean. Yet this external strength masked deep internal vulnerabilities. The rise of powerful military leaders led to frequent civil wars that shook the foundations of the Republic. Figures such as Sulla, and later the First Triumvirate of Pompey, Crassus, and Julius Caesar, exemplified the shift of power from republican institutions to influential individuals. Amidst this turbulence, Octavian closely observed his great-uncle Julius Caesar, especially after Caesar's decisive campaigns in Gaul, which made him the most powerful man in Rome. While the Senate struggled to maintain its traditional authority, the balance of power increasingly favored military leaders, deepening political divisions and paving the way for the collapse of the republican system. This environment, marked by rivalry and bloodshed, shaped Octavian's understanding of Roman power, preparing him to become Caesar's political heir, the architect of a new imperial system, and ultimately Rome's first emperor. The conflict between Julius Caesar and the Senate reached a climax when senators perceived his growing influence as a direct threat to the traditional political balance. They attempted to isolate him by stripping him of his military command and barring him from running for consul unless he returned to Rome as a private citizen, an action that would have exposed him to trial. In response, Caesar made a fateful decision. On January 10, 49 BC, he crossed the Rubicon with his army, effectively declaring civil war and violating Roman law, an irreversible act that changed Rome forever. Caesar's swift advance forced Pompey and his senatorial allies to retreat to the eastern Mediterranean. Decisive battles followed. Caesar initially suffered setbacks, such as the defeat at Dyrrhachium in 48 BC, but soon regrouped and achieved a crushing victory at the Battle of Pharsalus later that year. Pompey fled to Egypt seeking support, only to be assassinated upon arrival. Caesar emerged as the unchallenged leader of the Roman world. Afterward, Caesar assumed the role of dictator within the republican framework, a position unprecedented in Roman history. His consolidation of power alarmed many senators, not because of the title itself, but because it threatened the traditional republican order. During this period of transformation, Octavian, Caesar's young nephew, began his rise. He accompanied Caesar in the Spanish campaigns against the remnants of Pompey's forces, demonstrating discipline, intelligence, and ambition. Shortly before his assassination, Caesar formally adopted Octavian in his will, making him his primary heir, politically as well as personally. On March 15, 44 BC, Caesar was assassinated by conspirators in the Senate, who believed that ending his life would restore the Republic. Instead, they triggered a new era of chaos, with Octavian at its center. Octavian was not in Rome at the time of the assassination, but returned swiftly upon learning of his adoption. He inherited Caesar's wealth, name, and symbolic legitimacy, which gave him an extraordinary advantage despite being only 18 years old. At Caesar's funeral, Mark Antony's impassioned speech turned public opinion against the assassins, forcing Brutus, Cassius, and their allies to flee and plunging Rome back into armed conflict. Octavian acted pragmatically, using Caesar's wealth to secure the loyalty of the legions and establishing himself as a formidable political force. In 43 BC, Octavian entered the Senate and was appointed consul amid a power vacuum at the age of 19. To prevent direct conflict, a formal alliance called the Second Triumvirate was established with Mark Antony and Lepidus. This legally sanctioned coalition divided spheres of influence and shared military and financial resources, while violently eliminating political opponents, including the execution of prominent figures such as Cicero. The Triumvirate then confronted Caesar's assassins in Greece and Asia, culminating in the two-phase Battle of Philippi in 42 BC. The suicides of Brutus and Cassius ended the Republican resistance and symbolically marked the transfer of power from Senate authority to military command. Lepidus's influence gradually waned, leaving Octavian in the west and Antony in the east. Conflict with Antony escalated due to his alliance with Cleopatra VII of Egypt. Antony's eastern ambitions and the Alexandrian donations alienated Roman public opinion. Octavian waged a brilliant propaganda campaign, portraying Antony as a traitor to Roman values. In 32 BC, Antony was stripped of his powers and war was declared against Cleopatra. The decisive confrontation came at the Battle of Actium on September 2, 31 BC. Octavian's fleet, commanded by Marcus Agrippa, outmaneuvered Antony's larger but less coordinated forces. Antony and Cleopatra fled to Egypt and later committed suicide in 30 BC. Octavian annexed Egypt, eliminated potential rivals, and avoided the mistakes of Julius Caesar by gradually consolidating power without overtly declaring himself dictator. In 27 BC, the Senate conferred upon him the titles Princeps and Augustus, marking the transition from republic to empire and establishing him as Rome's first emperor. Augustus then implemented sweeping administrative, military, and social reforms. He divided provinces between senatorial and imperial oversight, reformed taxation, built roads and communication networks, and patronized arts, literature, and architecture. He established the Pax Romana, a period of unprecedented stability, economic prosperity, and cultural growth. Augustus's reign combined the qualities of a decisive and strategic leader with the authority to impose order, transforming a fragmented republic into a unified and enduring empire. He remained a model of political skill and statecraft, leaving a lasting legacy that endured long after his death on August 19th, 14th AD. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.